this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
You know what your customers are doing right this second? The exact same thing you are, listening to me. Which, let's be honest, is kind of flattering. But my point is, ads on iHeartRadio actually get heard. In the car, at the gym, on the couch, while people are walking their dogs. Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy? You're a good boy. That's right. You're a good boy. So why not make the next ad about you? Get started today. Call 844-844-iHeart or go to iHeartAdvertising.com. That's 844-844-iHeart or iHeartAdvertising.com.
Clay Travis with the Clay and Buck Show, wishing you and your family a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Buck Sexton here. The entire Clay and Buck Show wish you and your family a warm Christmas season and a joyful New Year. All right, welcome back in here to Clay and Buck. So, we've got much to discuss, my friends, including what's going on Capitol Hill here with the Venezuela boat strikes. Now, we're going to have more for you shortly on the FBI arrest situation of the pipe bomber. We're following that story as closely as we can. Everyone's essentially in wait-and-see mode until this FBI press conference, which is going to be in the next hour. We also have Secretary of Transportation Duffy on, and we're looking forward to that conversation. So we got a lot, and I think we have Steve Scalise next hour, House Majority Leader Scalise. So we got a lot going on. We can talk to him about the pipe bomber for sure, as well as you remember Steve Scalise, somebody who knows left-wing political violence all too well, as he had to fight for his life after he was shot by a maniac at a baseball field in Alexandria, Virginia, who was screaming, "This is for health care," right? And we all remember that. This is for health care, and he's shooting at people who are defenseless.
After also, Buck, remember asking, are those Republicans or Democrats? Yeah. Like, because they were just playing baseball. You didn't know who, they were warming up on a field. It wasn't like you could really tell who they were.
Yes, exactly. So, that's where we are on that story. We're waiting to hear more from the FBI, but we'll speak to Steve Scalise about that. In the meantime, you know that this has become now the primary attack on the administration. All the different anti-Trump news outlets, their main thing that they are covering right now is this. In fact, it even overshadowed, there was some Epstein stuff that was released. Nothing, some photos. Do you see this? Nobody even really paid very much attention to it in the media. It wasn't anything of particular interest, to be honest, from what I saw. There's a lot more, I think, that's coming out. But this is the story right now. So here is what is at issue. As we have discussed, I believe, and Clay has believed all along here, based upon the facts as presented to us, that Secretary Hegseth and those below him in the chain of command acted lawfully. Okay. But there is also an understanding here that there is a situation in which it is possible that you can be in a situation where you cannot just finish off the survivors of a strike. That is also a thing. I think both sides have agreed on that. And I think that's important because I see some people saying, if they were, clinging to wreckage and they were knocked out unconscious, we could just mow them down. No. But if they were still in the fight, meaning if they were still actively communicating with the drug cartels and trying to salvage the drugs and trying to basically continue the mission, it is what it is. And then you continue on. Here's ABC's Martha Raddatz on this play. She's obviously a Trump hater, but, this is what she said. Play 3.
Tonight, new information. According to a source familiar with the incident, the 2 survivors climbed back onto the boat after the initial strike. They were believed to be potentially in communication with others and salvaging some of the drugs. Because of that, it was determined they were still in the fight and valid targets. A JAG officer was also giving legal advice. So again, David, that video will be key, and Admiral Bradley will be on the Hill tomorrow behind closed doors.
So they have released the video, and if, as has been reported there, that is true, this story is going to vanish. So we'll see. There may be some dispute about what in the fight still looked alike, and again, how high quality is the video version of this. But this would seem to be a pretty clear validation of the decision that was made, as well as legal having been there and signed off as, watching the incident saying, yes, they're still enemy combatants. Yes, you can take this action. That seems to me to be kind of an open and shut case. So we will see, whether this starts to vanish. What I would say is, in the new studio that I have here, Buck, the ability to drive narrative on CNN or MSNBC, you can kind of judge whether they think they got something. They're already pulling back on their coverage of this strike now that the video's out there, now that more details are being released. It feels to me like the Washington Post story overpromised. The video has underdelivered what they said it would, and we're on to whatever the next controversy is inside of the Trump administration.
I think you said this earlier in the week, and I believe it was an astute observation, that this is turning into a little bit of a Kilmar Abrego Garcia situation for them, where the Democrats, to people who are paying attention, the Democrats are going to the mat in order to take the side on these issues. I know they would say of like the Geneva Conventions and human rights, but of the drug cartels.
Yes.
Which are killing, last year, I think it was like 80, 90,000.
That's right.
But something approaching 100. The worst years have been in the low 100,000 range. It's far too many people. And I also think it's important to remember it's not just the people who die. Lives are shattered just by the addiction to fentanyl. Think about the families that are destroyed. Think about the criminality, the criminal enterprises, the drug turf wars that happen. We look at that number. It's like looking at murders in a city. The murders give you a sense, but don't cover the whole totality of, this city has far too many assaults and rapes and robberies and everything else going on. The drug war isn't just about overdoses, although that's the most, poignant and destructive aspect of it. There's a whole lot of other secondary effects that are horrible, and people are tired of it. And my point here, Clay, is that once again, you have Democrats who are like, hold on. We need to make sure it's not so hard for the cartels to bring the drugs into America. You're being too harsh with the cartels. And a lot of Americans are saying, I don't know about that.
Who you pick as your face of any argument is huge. And again, I said the plaintiff, the named plaintiff in a case is always a huge part for anybody out there that files a lawsuit, class action. They try to find the most sympathetic plaintiff out there, the one that is going to pull at the heartstrings, that is going to make people say, wait a minute, are we really doing the right thing here? And we told you part of the deportation of illegal immigrants, they are going to focus on the mom, the little girl, the heartstring issues. But then they blew it. Then they were like, hey, actually, do you know how aggressive this thing is? Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a human trafficking, drug smuggling illegal who his wife had to call the police on because he was allegedly beating her up. He's being forced out of the country. And people are like, yeah, okay. And it didn't really land. And now Democrats are going to make the face of Trump's combating of illegal drugs coming into the country. A couple of narco terrorists in Venezuela who we were too mean to. It's a tough sell. Remember, or was it Linda who called in?
Linda's like, were they floating around with little floaties like in a pool? Blow them up, take them out. I don't care.
Linda makes the deep drag on the. Virginia
they're doing
Slim.
A backstroke. I saw a backstroke there. Another missile.
Wax them, and everybody, I don't even think anybody came, like everybody was in Linda's defense. We got loaded. I don't think we should go track down some of those talkbacks, but it looks like Linda's being vindicated here. Wax them.
I gotta say, I did not see, and this is the great thing too, guys. You're all a part of the conversation whenever you send in a talkback, an email, or you even just talk to producer Greg if you want to get on live, because that all gets Clay and I are talking about in the breaks. We read it and we see it. I don't think I saw anybody who was calling out Linda. Like, what I'm saying? Nobody was like, how dare she? A lot of people are like, I'm kind of with Linda.
I think, it is really very funny, in many ways that the things that they think are going to rally their base actually often rally the Trump base instead. And part of it is just not understanding basic narrative. And I've talked about this for a long time. If you are a student of history, this is obviously, 60, 70 years ago now, but they waited on the Montgomery bus boycotts until they had the right face of the Montgomery bus boycotts, which was Rosa Parks. If you go back and study that era, they actually arrested a young single mother who refused to give up her seat before Rosa Parks did it. And the civil rights leaders, including Martin Luther King Jr., said, no. The single mom who is unmarried is not the right face of the bus boycott. We want Rosa Parks to be the face of this boycott. So she wasn't even the first who refused to give up her seat that turned into the beginnings of the civil rights movement in the South back in Montgomery, Alabama in the day. They looked at it and they were waiting for what they thought was the most sympathetic plaintiff, the best face of their argument that they could find. And I look at some of this stuff and I just say, who is making these decisions on messaging for the Democrat Party? They're really just poor at even making the cases that they're trying to make.
And sometimes you just gotta bring in somebody like Linda who's gonna say, light them up. That's it. I've had enough of these clowns, you know?
This is also,
we sleep soundly at night. We sleep soundly at night because Linda stands on that wall smoking that stogie saying, enough's enough.
Colonel Linda Jessup out there. We talked about this before. Who's tougher in your house in discipline, you or your wife?
Oh, it's not even close. The Carrie is way, and this is also dealing with anyone who's trying to play any funny business with us, like a contractor or something comes up. I just kind of want to always pull them aside and be like, look, you really want to deal with me.
Yeah.
You don't want me to bring, Carrie into this.
I am the softy in this house. If you do not want Laura as the, on the wall, making decisions, you don't want to be in a fight with her.
I'm the hostage negotiator. Carrie is the CT team that goes in with flashbangs. Like, it's just a different deal. You want to deal with me.
If you missed Linda, who people love, and Linda may be listening right now, Linda, we will play what she said as she is now being vindicated. But she was fine even, like Buck said, these guys could have been, with, floating around on noodles, with nothing left. She's like, just wax them. But we'll have some fun. We'll play that when we come back.
All right, look, this Christmas, send the gift that both of our families are enjoying every month with a subscription from Good Ranchers. When this package arrives, it's like Christmas morning for Carrie and me, no matter the time of year. We've made so many great meals now with Good Ranchers raised American beef and chicken. Good Ranchers sources 100% of their proteins from American ranchers, and every one of them makes a commitment to no growth hormones, no antibiotics in the animals they raise. The result is pure, delicious meat, chicken, pork, even salmon. Good Ranchers makes gifting easy. Just choose any gift box, add a note, and schedule delivery. And whether it's for family, friends, employees, or clients, Good Ranchers makes the most memorable gift. Visit goodranchers.com to start gifting. Subscribe and use my name Buck as your promo code for $40 off your first order and free meat for life. Once again, that's goodranchers.com and $40 off plus free meat for life with code BUCK.
Sometimes all you can do is laugh, and they do a lot of it with the Sunday Hang. Join Clay and Buck as they laugh it up in the Clay and Buck podcast feed on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Run a business and not thinking about radio? Think again. Because more people are listening to the radio on iHeart today than they were 20 years ago. And only iHeart Broadcast Radio connects with more Americans than TV, digital, social, any other media. Even twice as many teens than TikTok. And that reach means everything. Just think about the universal marketing formula. The number of consumers who hear your message times the response rate equals the results. Now let's get those results growing for your business. Radio's here now more than ever, and iHeart's leading the way. Think radio can help your business? Think iHeart. Streaming, podcasting, and radio, where the reach is real. Let us show you at iHeartAdvertising.com. That's iHeartAdvertising.com. Or call 844-844-iHeart. One more time, just call 844-844-iHeart and get radio working for you.
Welcome Welcome back in. Hour number 2, Clay, Travis, Buck Sexton Show. Appreciate all of you hanging out with us. We are monitoring the soon-to-be press conference from the FBI about an arrest in the D.C. pipe bomb case. We will keep you updated on that in D.C. as well. We are joined now by Secretary Sean Duffy. I am headed to D.C. a little bit later this afternoon for the big event at the Kennedy Center tomorrow. With the World Cup coming to the United States, it is going to be an incredible scene. I know there are many different things that you are working on a variety of different arenas every single day, but this is a fun one. Secretary Sean Duffy with us right now. What should we know about this big event that is starting in June and will officially be laid out bracket style to a large extent tomorrow?
So first off, I imagine you're flying here, you're not driving, so hopefully your flight is going to be not delayed, on time. You're going to be, perfect airtime.
Yes.
I can't control the weather, but beyond that, hopefully you're in a good place. Listen, so this is exciting. So tomorrow, we'll have thousands of people, including yourself, at the Kennedy Center. I'm going to be there as well. But 1 billion people tune in for the draw around the world to see, what team is going to play, what team where. It's going to be, fantastic. Donald Trump is going to be there. The president of Mexico is going to be there as well. So that's really exciting. And as we look to the summer, again, we're celebrating America's 250th birthday. Exciting. And the World Cup is going to come. There'll be 11 million people that fly into the country to watch the games. And again, from my perspective, why is DOT involved? Well, we're one of the most important aspects. So not only welcoming, foreign travelers into the country, working with Kristi Noem and Marco Rubio to make it a seamless experience, but then they're flying between host cities, they're taking trains, buses, and then in the cities making sure the transit actually works. Buses, rail cars, tracks, to make sure that we get all of these spectators into the facilities and then back out again, do it safely, do it seamlessly. This is our opportunity to showcase America on our great birthday. And so, listen, we've been working for 9 months on this thing to make sure that all of our teams are working together and resources and assets are deployed to make sure it's a great experience for what is going to be a global event.
What kind of money, Secretary Duffy, does this bring into the country? What are some of the estimates about the economic activity and just all of that side of things?
I don't have those numbers, but listen, this is billions of dollars that come in. You fill up hotels, you fill up planes, restaurants, and then there's time between each of the matches. So there's an opportunity for foreigners who might be coming to America for the first time to go out and see our beautiful country. A lot of places to go check out and tour as you're waiting for the next match. So again, many billions of dollars this is going to impact the country, and so it's that part of it's huge. By the way, can I tell you, Donald Trump loves sports, right? Whether he's going to basketball, football, but so not as we have the World Cup going on during the 250th birthday. He has a UFC cage match, first time at the White House, going on as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun, but a huge economic revenue driver for the country. And by the way, you have people coming in to watch soccer, but who knows how many times they come back to go, this was a great experience in America. And I think here's the problem. We have a lot of people around the world who have said, am I welcome to come to America? They've seen that people have overstayed their visas or they've come here illegally, and we've tried to deport them. We've taken those who haven't come lawfully, we've sent them out. That doesn't mean we don't want people to come. Of course we want people to come. We want them to come the right way and come and visit and come and see all we have to offer and then follow our rules. And there's a timeline in which they get their visas, and which will be well after the games have ended and they can head home. But so no, we want people to come.
For people who don't know, and I've been doing my research on this because I turn into a pretty decent soccer fan every 4 years because I'm a big sports fan. There are 104 games, I believe, that are going to be played. We're talking Department of Transportation, Secretary Sean Duffy. The vast majority of those games are going to be played in the United States. And there are now 48 teams that are going to be involved in the World Cup. They've expanded it from 32 Tomorrow, we will find out which of the 12 groups of 4 the United States is in, among other countries. Do you know what President Trump's role is going to be tomorrow? It's taking place at the Kennedy Center. This is in many ways a Trump production. Fox Sports is going to be putting it on. Like you said, I'll be there. There'll be a ton of us there. What do you know about the event tomorrow?
So I'll get to that in a second. But again, there's 16 host cities. 11 are in the United States. We are the main host. And so it's going to be a big production. I'm going as well. I hear it's like red carpet and everyone's coming in, and it's the production value. And by the way, no one produces events like this better than Donald Trump. I think he's maybe a master of ceremonies, going to address the crowd, before the draws happen. And again, he's the most famous person in the world, and to be there lending his name, the presidency, to this great event, I think makes it that much more exciting and interesting. But again, the world tunes in because they're excited to see, what group they're going to be in, who they're going to play, and do I have an easy bracket, a hard bracket? What's my prospects now for my team to prevail in the World Cup? So again, the details. I'm showing up, Buck. You probably know more than Clay. You know more than I do. I'm coming, but I don't know. I'm bringing my scarf, and I'm going to be there, and I'm going to enjoy the festivities. And pick it up like you will.
Secretary Sean Duffy with us now, Secretary of Transportation. And I'm sure this is your favorite question, Mr. Secretary. I'm sure that everywhere you go, when everyone realizes who you are, and they start asking, what's up?
My favorite question is a bad lead up to the.
Oh, yeah. No, trust me. So how are we doing with the whole fixing air traffic control and making planes go on time, Mr. Secretary? This is something near and dear to everybody who flies all over the country's heart. And I'm sure people ask you. I'm sure you get asked at the Thanksgiving table. You get asked in the airport when you're flying. What's going on with it?
No, better yet, anyone who has my cell number, when they're delayed, I get a text.
Oh, yeah.
About hey, I'm delayed. I'm an hour delayed. Like, come on. I'm like, it's a very special text. Thank you for sending that to me. No, so that I appreciate the question. So I laid out, 6 months ago, how old and antiquated our air traffic control system is. And it is. We're using, some iteration of 1960s, 70s, 80s equipment, software from the 90s. And so I was given $12.5 billion in the big, beautiful bill. It's a big deal. It's a lot of money. I need another $20 billion. But with that $12.5 billion, we've already started. So we have copper. We have to transition to fiber. We've already completed over 30% of those transitions since I got the money from the big, beautiful bill. Now, that doesn't mean because I have fiber, I've switched from analog to digital. That's another step. We're going to announce later today, we're going to pick an integrator that's going to run the whole operation. We'll have one paycheck to write, one throat to choke. The mission is don't break the national airspace, number one. And number two, make sure that you deliver this on time, which is by the end of 2028. So we have a 3-year window, new radios, new radars, new voice switches, and all new telecom. That's the foundation that we build off of. We need a new software system. Once I get the money for that, I'll be able to start developing, debugging, and then deploying it. That's what's going to really change the way the airspace works. And so if you look forward 5-10 years, we're going to double, triple the capacity of the use of our airspace. We have drones. We have these eVTOLs, the Ubers in the air. You might have seen videos of those. More air travel.
Is that really, I got to jump in on this because I just saw something about the Miami Palm Beach corridor. So that really piqued my interest. Are we going to have air taxis on certain routes during this Trump administration's term? Is that going to happen?
100%. 100%. And I think they're safer and quieter and cheaper than a helicopter. You're going to move people more seamlessly through the airspace with these air taxis, to use that phrase. And, the airspace, aviation really hasn't changed in the last 70 years, 80 years. With drone deliveries, you're going to be able to get a hot cup of coffee, your DoorDash, a delivery. If you forgot something at the grocery store or you need medicine, 3.5 to 5 pound deliveries, going to change the way products are delivered. The way we move with these air taxis is fairly inexpensive, and they move seamlessly through the airspace, giving you access from one neighborhood to a city location. Or you look at again, the east coast of Florida, moving people along that corridor, really, I think critical, going to change the way that people can live in that part of the country. And then we also have autonomous vehicles on the horizon as well. That's going to change the way people move as well, how they purchase cars, how our systems are safer. And our job is to make sure that, I call it my Goldilocks theory. We can't have regulations that go too fast, because if bad things happen, we get set back. If I go too slow, the innovators will go to places like China, and then China will send us Chinese technology, and you don't want Chinese technology on a autonomous vehicle in your drones or in your eVTOLs. They'll gather a ton of information. It's a national security play. So we have to get it just right. The porridge has to be just right, and that's what we're trying to accomplish now. But you're going to see these in the next 3 years. You're going to have access to all of these new opportunities in aviation and in autonomous vehicles. One last thing: boom technology for supersonic flight. It used to be over just water. Technology now will allow you to fly over land, and that boom will ricochet off the atmosphere and not hit the ground, so you can have those fast flights without having windows break somewhere in Missouri.
That's super interesting too, because I've been seeing that people remember the Concorde, and how quickly you could go from the East Coast to Europe, and, it's 4 hours, 5 hours, best case. Now this new boom technology that you're talking about, I've been reading about it. It would theoretically could become standard in the next generation, where you could get to Europe. You could fly across the Atlantic in 4 hours, and it could become much more standard. One question for you as you go out, and we appreciate the time, Department of Transportation, Secretary Sean Duffy with us. Air traffic controllers. There have been a huge story surrounding the number of them, meritocracy, the talents of them. We got a ton of people out there listening right now, kids, grandkids. How many more air traffic controllers do we need? What should people out there who are interested in these jobs and believe they have the talents be doing? And how do we get to the point where we have a depth, so if we get guys who are sick or gals who are sick, we don't have to worry about different airport air traffic areas being shut down, which discombobulates, obviously, travel nationwide?
So give or take, I'm about 2,000 short. I have increased the capacity of throughput in the academy, where we train our air traffic controllers, by 20% this year. I've asked experienced controllers not to retire. I'm paying them 20% upfront cash bonuses to not retire, to stay on the job, to try to close that gap. But if you're 20 years old, you got 2 years of work experience, and you want to be an air traffic controller, you're smart, you can take our entrance exam. And again, sometimes if you're a painter, if you're a mechanic, there's no rhyme or reason of what makes a good air traffic controller, but we test you for it. You come in, our academy is 4 months. You come out, depending on where you're placed, it could take a year to 3 years to get certified. But these guys are making really good money, and doing a really important service to the country. So we're looking for smart young men and women that want to come into this into this industry. And again, it pays well, and you're providing the safety of the traveling public. So we have a plan to close the gap. Technology can help us too, but you saw what happened during the shutdown, and you had air traffic controllers that weren't being paid, and they were having some hard times putting food on their table. They were driving Uber and waiting tables. I mean, you can't have that. So we have to think through hard problems that the last administration didn't want to take up, they didn't want to consider. There's no hard problem in this department that we aren't grappling with, trying to fix. And by the way, there's no plan to fix this one. We are fixing this and going to make it better for the American people.
Secretary Duffy, look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Should be an awesome event at the Kennedy Center, and appreciate the good work. And everybody out there, you just heard it. There's lots of great jobs, air traffic control, that you can be searching out for those kids and grandkids. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks, gents. Have a good one.
That is Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy. When we come back, we'll unpack a little bit of what he said, also update you on the FBI and that Venezuela situation, with House Majority Leader Steve Scalise scheduled to join us at the bottom of the hour. But I want to tell you, get those pens ready. We've got Thursday night football back underway. And I've got a winner for all of you. George Pickens, more than 77.5 receiving yards. Jahmyr Gibbs, more than 76.5 rushing yards. Josh Allen, more than 228.5 passing yards. Jamar Chase, more than 90.5 rushing yards. That's Josh Allen, Jamar Chase, Jahmyr Gibbs, George Pickens, all more. If we're right on that, it pays out at 5.5x. It makes Thursday Night Football, NFL football, a little bit more entertaining than it otherwise would be. You can play in California. You can play in Texas. You can play in Georgia. 5.5x if we're right. And doesn't cost very much money. It's just fun. $5, you get $50 into your account. It just makes sports a little bit more fun. I love what these guys are doing. Prize Picks is the company. PrizePicks.com. Code CLAY, that's C-L-A-Y. When you play $5, you get $50 deposited into your accounts. You can play in 40 different states, including, like I said, California, Texas, Georgia, among others, if you're feeling left out. That's PrizePicks.com, code CLAY, PrizePicks.com, C-L-A-Y, for $50 in your account.
Stories of freedom, stories of America. Inspirational stories that unite us all. Each day, spend time with Clay and Buck. Find them on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back in. Clay, Travis, Buck Sexton show rolling through the Thursday edition of the program. We're back to D.C. to talk to House Majority Leader Steve Scalise. We got a bunch of topics to hit with him, but let's start with this. We're awaiting the press conference from the FBI on the arrest of the pipe bomber in January of 2021. You, as we were talking about earlier on the program, Congressman, have seen firsthand the consequences of political violence. And unfortunately, the number of political related violence issues seem like they are accelerating. Is that the sense that you have? And how would you assess where we are right now in terms of the temperature, the danger, and the violence that unfortunately it typifies too much of our conversation, it feels like, politically today?
Yeah, well, first, Clay and Buck, thank you for having me. And, you know, it's sad to see that politics today has gotten so toxic in terms of, you know, we all have disagreements. And, I mean, our country has always celebrated the fact that we don't all think alike and we can express those differences in a free and open society. And you know what? If you and I disagree, you can vote against me at the ballot every 2 years. We settle our differences at the ballot box. And for anybody to think that political violence is okay, it's not. And yes, I've seen it firsthand. You know, we still see it more and more lately, and it's got to stop. I mean, you know, Charlie Kirk's assassination, you know, was just another example, but it's far from an isolated case. And, you know, the pipe bombing, I mean, it's sad that it took this long. I mean, it took years to figure it out, but I'm glad. I applaud the FBI for staying on the case and for finally, you know, making an arrest, because, you know, he intended, luckily he wasn't successful, but he intended to blow up a building. I mean, this is insane.
Congressman Scalise, appreciate you being with us here. What are some of the key things that you think can get done before Congress goes into recess? What's your focus as we're rounding up here the end of the year in 2025?
Yeah, you know, as we're in the beginning of December, there's still a lot more we want to do by the end of this year and just the next few weeks. You know, we're in the middle of putting together a bill on healthcare that'll lower healthcare costs for families. You know, I was in a meeting this morning with the Doctors Caucus. We have a caucus of medical doctors who serve in Congress. We have some great ideas. I've been meeting with other members over the last few weeks, and we've put together a package of bills, and we're going to ultimately bring this to the floor soon. I don't even know exactly when, in the next probably 2 weeks. We're building consensus, and once we have that consensus, you're going to see a series of bills this month in December on the House floor to lower healthcare costs. And I'm not talking about just shoveling hundreds of billions more dollars into the Affordable Care Act that has not been working for families. I mean, since that law passed, you know, what's known as Obamacare, you've seen an increase in premiums on families by 80%. So clearly the Affordable Care Act has been anything but affordable. What we want to do is give families options, you know, allow you to do things like pooling together association health plans so that small businesses can pool together and get the buying power of a large company so that those premiums cost a lot less. Things like health savings accounts where you can, even if you're in an ACA plan, right now you're only trapped in that plan. How about if we let families have the flexibility to where you can take that existing money and move it to a plan that's better for your family? If you find a plan that has a lower deductible cost, a lower monthly premium, you should be able to go and buy that plan. Just like you look on TV, you've got all these commercials for car insurance and other products that are fighting for your dollar because there's competition. Right now in health insurance, you don't have competition because the marketplace is really focused on forcing everybody into the Unaffordable Care Act. We want to make that more flexible so families have options to lower their premiums. And we'll be bringing those bills to the floor in the next few weeks.
By the way, press conference has started with the FBI. We are monitoring it. Attorney General Pam Bondi addressing the arrest right now. Congressman,
and by the way, there are a lot of other bills. I'm sorry to jump in again, but you did ask a broader question about what are we doing the rest of this month. That's one important package we're going to be bringing. We're bringing a number of other bills. We've got some housing affordability bills that are going to be going through committee next week and the Financial Services Committee, and then coming to the House floor this month probably. We've got some other bills that are focused on lowering costs in other areas. We've done a lot on energy production, on taxes, so that nobody has tax increases, but we also help no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. So a lot of blue-collar workers are going to be able to get really big benefits in terms of more money in their paychecks. You know, we're working on other things that will lower inflation, lowering interest rates. You know, so we're bringing bills on all of those fronts in addition to the normal appropriations process. We're bringing what's called the National Defense Authorization Act, hopefully next week, the bill that sets all the priorities for our nation's defense. Very important bill, usually a very bipartisan bill. Hopefully that's going to be on the floor next week. So we're doing a lot of different things all at the same time, but really important things for families.
Pam Bondi, by the way, this cold case languished 4 years until Director Patel and Deputy Director Bongino came to the FBI. No new tips, no new witnesses, just good, diligent work. That is Attorney General Pam Bondi on the pipe bomber arrest. Last question for you.
Great.
I know, Congressman, there was hope that there was going to be a SCORE Act passed as it had to do with college athletics. That has now been shelved as it's continuing to be worked on. You are in Louisiana. Congrats on Lane Kiffin. For people out there, and a huge majority of our audience are college sports fans. What are you guys trying to do, and what's the latest you can tell us on that act?
Yeah, and I still want to see us bring this bill to the floor because it's important to anybody who loves college athletics, you know, me included. I know you do. In many people, millions around the country, have seen over the last few years it's become the wild, wild west. And why is that? It's because through a lot of things, lawsuits that the NCAA has lost and other things, there is no ability for schools to enforce their own rules anymore. You know, and whether they come together and get behind the NCAA or some other organization, that's not what Congress is dictating. What Congress is going to try to do is say, hey, the schools can actually go and enforce their own rules again in college athletics. And oh, by the way, we also in the SCORE Act put in protections for student athletes that don't exist today. You know, whether or not students get paid, that issue has already been decided. But right now, there are no real protections for the students who are getting paid. For example, agents. You've got kids 16, 17 years old in high school getting approached by agents with contracts that I'm sure they're not getting teams of attorneys to read. They might be signing their rights away for 10 years when they sign some deal in high school. We put guardrails there so that the students get real protections, so that it limits how much an agent can even get in fees from the student athlete. We protect the Olympic sports. The U.S. Olympic Committee just came out in support of this bill, the SCORE Act, because it does protect Olympic sports and other, you know, women's sports, you know, Title IX sports, for example. So it won't just be football and basketball at every college. You're going to be able to have an array of men's and women's sports that are, some make money, a lot of them lose money, but you're going to be able to have those protections in place at schools as well. So it's an important bill that a lot of universities across the country have asked for. Again, not Congress policing college athletics, but Congress passing a law to just undo all of these bad lawsuits that have been lost over years and years so that college athletics can be governed again. You know, a portal where every year a kid can transfer and somebody can play for 6 years for 5 different schools. And oh, by the way, they're supposed to be getting an education, but they can't even transfer their credits because it's gotten so ridiculous. That can get reined in as well. And I think everybody wants some structure back in place.
Thank you, Congressman Steve Scalise. Look forward to seeing you again, having you again on soon. Keep up the good work.
Hey, we're going to keep getting it done, but we're going to deliver a lot of good things for the American people. Thank you for having me, Clay and Buck.
No doubt. Look, we'll monitor, and we're continuing with the FBI press conference. We may go to it live when we come back out of the next break. We'll certainly have cuts for you. Kash Patel speaking right now, FBI director. Online scammers love the holiday season just as much as you do. Unfortunately, they use the cover of the holiday season to take advantage of so many people online. Cyber threats everywhere. That's why LifeLock will monitor hundreds of millions of data points a second for identity threats. They build secure online systems that do it to protect your online identity when they see your data mixed up in a data breach or used in irregular patterns. Unlike your normal activity, they check it out. They're in to try to protect you. If you do become a victim of identity theft, you get your own restoration specialist who will fix that identity theft guaranteed, or your money back. Your protection backed by LifeLock's $1 million protection package. Join now. Save 40% off your first year with promo code CLAY. Call 1-800-LifeLock or go online to LifeLock.com. Promo code CLAY for 40% off. That's LifeLock.com. Promo code CLAY.
You ain't imagining it. The world has gone insane. Reclaim your sanity with Clay and Buck. Find them on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Run a business and not thinking about radio? Think again. Because more people are listening to the radio on iHeart today than they were 20 years ago. And only iHeart Broadcast Radio connects with more Americans than TV, digital, social, any other media. Even twice as many teens than TikTok. And that reach means everything. Just think about the universal marketing formula. The number of consumers who hear your message times the response rate equals the results. Now let's get those results growing for your business. Radio's here now more than ever, and iHeart's leading the way. Think radio can help your business? Think iHeart. Streaming, podcasting, and radio, where the reach is real. Let us show you at iHeartAdvertising.com. That's iHeartAdvertising.com. Or call 844-844-iHeart. One more time, just call 844-844-iHeart and get radio working for you.
Welcome back in, Clay, Travis, Buck Sexton Show. Appreciate all of you hanging out with us. Buck had to bounce. I've got you the rest of the way. Julie Kelly joins me now. Julie, I don't know anybody who has covered Jan 6 better, more significantly, or more regularly than you have. You've been coming on with us for years. This pipe bomber, we've talked about you some on this related incident for years in the past. And I just want to start before we dive into the specifics with you. If you truly believed that, as the Biden administration told us they did, that Jan 6 then surrounding days was basically the worst threat to the country since the Civil War, the alleged pipe bombs would be the most violent of all of the protests that were surrounding that day in terms of what they could have occurred if they had exploded. Wouldn't you have made that your number one focus of investigation? Why do you think it was not the number one focus? Because clearly it was not, of the Biden DOJ.
Hey, Clay, I'm sorry you broke up that very first part there, but why this was not only not focus of their investigation, this was a very vigorous investigation early on through January, February of 2021. Then all of a sudden it disappeared.
Yeah.
And that really is the takeaway. That's the scandal about this arrest today. Not necessarily that the suspect is in custody and now they just posted the complaint, so I'm going to be looking through that. But why Chris Wray's DOJ, Joe Biden's Department of Justice completely dropped this matter. And we have to believe at this point some of the reporting indicating that this individual, who was 25 or 26 at the time, was linked to Antifa, or that anti-fascist movement, and was not a MAGA person, as we were told for years.
So what do you think actually has happened here? And you said the complaint has just been posted. Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, they had a big press conference. We've played some cuts from that. I'm scrolling through Twitter right now trying to see if I can see that complaint as you were just talking about as well.
Okay.
what exactly has been alleged here. But the arrest, this Brian, let me play for you, Julie, and let you react to this. This was Dan Bongino describing the moment they were able to solve the case and his reaction. Cut 35.
Was there a particular moment where the evidence is coming in and it's starting to look like progress is being made? What was the moment that you knew that you were on the road to solving the case?
Dan, you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. I was smiling at you because I certainly remember the moment. Darren remembers it too. He said, "Are you sitting down?" He called me on the phone. I said, "Oh boy, why? Is this bad news?" And he said, "I think we got him." What exactly that tip was, we're going to have to pass on that for right now while obviously we're in the prologue of a long book. This is just the beginning. This is not the end of the investigation, as you all well know, having reported on these for a long time. There's interviews to be conducted. The search warrant processing scene is not even done.
Okay. The affidavit is up, Julie, on the criminal complaint. I've just seen images of this guy start to circulate. He is a young black man, Brian Cole Jr. And the indications that he is a diehard Trump supporter or that he would have been an insurrectionist seems quite clearly not to be true. And again, I'm reading through with this affidavit right now. I think this has the potential. So let me take a step back because we're analyzing this in real time. This has the potential to change in many ways the narrative surrounding Jan 6 itself. If instead of a crazed group of Trump terrorists, there were also individuals here who are, this individual is maybe just a left-wing radical that was also involved in this. That really kind of changes the, these are crazy white supremacist Trump supporters narrative, doesn't it? Doesn't it challenge things?
It definitely does, Clay, and that's why, and I was saying this earlier in interviews this morning before we even knew, the individual's name, but there was some reporting that he was tied to Antifa, is that explains why the investigation was dropped, because it completely contradicted what FBI Director Christopher Wray, and I will be posting these clips shortly on @Julie_Kelly too. Christopher Wray's insistence that Antifa played no role in the events of January 6th. Now, he was saying this as early as March of 2021 when he designated January 6th an act of domestic terrorism, but he was insistent that no one from Antifa was involved. There was no way for him to know that, Clay, but because you had the president, because you had people who were there on January 6th who were saying that they saw Antifa there, they saw Antifa getting out of buses. We also have right now, finally, I think it was discovered last year or in 2023, undercover DC Metro police officers arriving at Capitol grounds telling people that they were there to find Antifa. So this would have been not just decimated the entire January 6th insurrection narrative, but also contradicted Chris Wray because he was desperate to help develop this insurrection narrative and use it against the president and the MAGA movement. So we have a much bigger scandal on our hands rather than just taking a man into custody who was seen on that video on January 5th. This is a huge cover-up on a massive scale of Chris Wray's FBI and Joe Biden, Merrick Garland's Department of Justice, keeping this from the American people, keeping it out of legal proceedings. J6 defendants could have used something like this as exculpatory evidence because you had judges calling this an insurrection incited by the president. So there are a lot of consequences, legal ramifications of what Chris Wray's cover-up, if that is indeed the fact, of this individual who planted the pipe bombs and then prompted the first wave of panic and even evacuations that day right as the joint session was convening at 1 o'clock.
All right, let me read. This is the court. Let me see. I want to make sure I get the official, because my producer. This is the affidavit in support of the criminal complaint. that has been filed and released. And I'm reading through it live with you right now. Cole lives in a single-family house with his mother and other family members. He is 30 years old, resident of Woodbridge, Virginia. The evidence laid out here, Julie, and I'm reading this in real time. The FBI has identified 1 bank checking account, 6 credit cards used by Cole to, they allege, purchase multiple items consistent with the components used to manufacture the pipe bombs. And they say that he bought these things in a physical retail locations in Northern Virginia. And then it runs through the specifics of exactly what was included in these pipe bombs and where they were able to find and trace the purchases at Home Depot. They then say that they were, and this is very detailed about the things that were purchased that they believe were directly used in the pipe bomb that they were able to analyze. They also then say that since at least as early as January 5, 2021, they have identified his cell phone number, and they have been able to obtain historical cell site records located in the immediate vicinity of the RNC and the DNC at the time at which the bomb was placed. And these are cell phone towers location data. Records obtained, and again, I'm reading from this in real time, from the cell phone provider provide service to Cole's cell phone, show that he was in the area, and that they are able, the particular sector that engaged, and basically that he was there, during the time that they believe that these pipe bombs were actually, placed. So, again, I'm reading in real time the specific pinging. You may or may not have this in front of you, Julie. This will be ultimately for a court to determine guilt or innocence, but they have, it appears, him purchasing the items that were used to make the pipe bomb with his credit card, and then his cell phone being in the location where the pipe bomb was placed on that night. That is circumstantial. They obviously have video footage of an individual as well. He's covered up. He fits the height, size. Maybe they'll be able to find some of these clothes. I don't know. But this is very detailed. It was not discussed at the press conference. So your reaction to some of this, obviously, as it's coming down in real time.
Right. So this does appear to confirm that the FBI has the right person in custody. So that's a good sign. we don't want, a rush to judgment here, and that does not appear to be the case. But what was said during the press conference today, and I would have liked to have seen a lot more details on the suspect and where this investigation is headed, and the cover-up apparently by Chris Wray's FBI, rather than sort of, this teamwork performance that we got instead. So this affidavit, this complaint will be helpful in putting some more meat on the bone. But Clay, what was said during the press conference is very important. This discovery, identifying the suspect, was not based on new information or evidence.
Yeah, right.
They were working off what they already had, just putting new investigators, fresh pairs of eyes on this, which means that the Wray FBI has had that for years. So this was an intentional decision by someone, whether it was Chris Wray, whether it was Stephen D'Antuono, who was the D.C. FBI chief at the time overseeing the pipe bomb investigation. So someone or somebody made the conscious choice not to pursue this, but to pretend at the same time that the FBI actually was looking for this person. So, as I said, there are big ramifications for this, and I hope that we hear more from the FBI and the DOJ about what they had, when they had it, the fingerprints all over that information early on, and then who made the decision to shut the whole thing down.
Yes, Julie, we appreciate the time. Again, this is a breaking news story. I know you're going to have a crazy day. We're trying to make sense of it all, but I think certainly the idea that this was a white supremacist-led revolt against the United States government would be challenged if the most violent alleged perpetrator was a young black man connected to Antifa, as the details seem to suggest he was. based on the information that is coming out here. So,
Clay, right. Put us back to April of 2021. Let's say that Chris Wray does announce this arrest of this individual, and he's a young black man, no ties to MAGA, but has ties to Antifa. There would be no January 6th insurrection narrative. It would have been over.
Yeah.
They could not allow that to happen. And this is a scandal of massive proportion. And that should be the biggest takeaway today.
And then I think, Julie, to build on top of that, a lot of people are going to start to say, okay, what motivated this 25-year-old at that point in time to decide to do this? And then he vanishes for 5 years and doesn't do anything else. And he's living at his parents' house in Northern Virginia. And we suddenly find him. Like, what is his back? There are an awful lot of lone wolves, it seems, who engage, and I'm using quotation marks for those watching on video, who engage in acts of violence that we hear, oh, well, they had no connection to anyone else. Isn't it kind of suspicious how often that seems to happen?
It is happening more often, and I think that this is something that FBI, that Cash and Dan are going to have to address straight on. I mean, if we are expected to believe that this individual did this on his own, we could see him on a phone. We can see him using his glasses to peer for an address. We can see him retracing his steps. This was not a sophisticated, operation that this kid did on his own. Who was he working at whose behest? And then, Clay, like you and I, Buck, and you, Buck, and I have talked about for years, the very suspicious surroundings of related to the discovery at the RNC and the DNC. I still believe that something more nefarious happened in that timeline that day on January 6th, right before those discoveries, than what happened with this individual who was arrested today.
Well, remember, I mean, there's that video of Kamala Harris supposedly in incredible danger coming within, a few feet of the alleged pipe bomb, and nobody notices it, and it didn't turn into a huge story. I think you've talked about this in the past, when, you're about to be elected as vice president and there's a pipe bomb in close proximity to you and nobody seems to be concerned about it. Anyway, there's a lot here. And I appreciate you coming on. And I think a lot of this is going to continue, to be, explained and, to be unraveled, as we go forward so that there's more sense to be made here. But we appreciate the time and thank you for everything that you've been doing on these cases.
You too, Clay. Talk to you soon. Thanks.
That's Julie Kelly. I'll try to get to a couple of your calls when we come back because, again, I'm trying to read this affidavit in real time and analyze it as major breaking news. And, again, at a minimum, this is destructive to the narrative of Jan 6th in a seismic way that now a young black man who appears to have been of left-wing ideology is arrested as the foremost violent actor of the Jan 6th window. It's just big news. It is huge news. And they couldn't find this guy for 5 years. Biden had 4 years when they were dragging grandmas out of their house, when they were looking for everyone on Jan 6th, and they couldn't find the guy who was engaged in potentially the most heinous of the potential violent acts of anybody. Again, a lot going on here. This is a big story. I want to tell you, going into the weekend, here's something simple. 4 players that I am taking for Prize Picks to have success. George Pickens, more than 77.5 receiving yards. Jahmyr Gibbs, more than 76.5 rushing yards. Josh Allen, more than 228.5 passing yards. Jamar Chase, more than 90.5 receiving yards. Lots of you, like me, are major football fans. I'm going to be up tomorrow for the World Cup. You can play World Cup on Prize Picks come June when the World Cup is underway in the United States. If you like college basketball, if you like college football, if you like the NFL set all-time records on Thanksgiving. More people watched Cowboys Chiefs than have ever watched an NFL regular season game in history. I know huge percentages of you guys were out there watching. Rush was a monster football fan. You guys will love Prize Picks. Go get signed up right now. You can play along. $5. You get $50 deposited in your account. That's $5, $50 deposited in your account. Get hooked up today. PrizePicks.com, code Clay. That's PrizePicks.com, code Clay.
Want to be in the know when you're on the go? The Team 47 Podcast. Trump highlights from the week. Sundays at noon Eastern in the Clay and Buck Podcast feed. Find it on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Jim.
Hello.
Jim started advertising with iHeartRadio way back in April. And now...
I have customers out the door!
And this is Sarah.
Hi.
She started putting a portion of her marketing dollars in podcasting back in June.
Business is booming. That's why I'm working on a Saturday.
Want to be like Jim and Sarah? It's easy. All you have to do is own or manage a business and reach out to iHeart. Get started today at 844-844-iHeart or iHeartAdvertising.com.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.